I think also when we had our first interview with all of you as a band, I think I mentioned your voice and you have such a calming and soothing voice. So if you're dealing with
Mm,
anxiety, guys, just check this band
mm,
out and their songs, and they're really, really good songs that are full of revelation. But
mm.
anyways, how would you describe your band in a
Thank
few
you.
words?
Um, in 3 words, I would say living by faith. That's the, I guess that's how I would describe it. I don't know if that's a good description, but yeah, it doesn't describe the style or anything, but it describes who we are. That's how we started, and we started out by faith, and we continue by faith. Yeah, it was during college, we decided, based on a testimony of someone who came to one of our concerts. At the time, we were doing random concerts here and there, playing at camps and things like that in America. And somebody wrote us an email and said he said, I was so impacted by the testimonies of your songs, and I decided to give my life to Jesus after the concert, and I wanted to share that with you. And we just felt so strongly like, wow, this could be really impactful. What if we did this full time? Because we can't right now. We're working full time jobs, and we could do this on weekends every now and then or whatever. So what if we were to do this full time? And by faith, we decided to pack up our stuff and move to a different state where our bass player was going to college and he had a studio, and we recorded our first album there. And then again, we took another leap of faith and decided to go into touring full time. And we toured by faith for 8 years throughout the states. Yeah, we made the rounds multiple times, and then we moved to Romania by faith. And Pablo came out here by faith, and we're continuing by faith. So I
That's
guess that would be
incredible.
the closest description to what our band is.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
And what are a few things that help you grow as a band, but also stay faithful to the vision? Because you mentioned faith and you mentioned
Hmm.
touring and um, also moving to a different foreign country. Yeah.
Hmm.
What are a few things that you guys do to stay faithful to what God called you?
Hmm. I think the most important thing is investing in our personal relationships with Jesus. Um, I would say that's the most important thing that we do. Without that, there's no vision or anything. And then on the more practical side, I think serving together, we serve by leading worship in the local church together. We do outreach concerts, and finding a balance between those. I think our vision is outreach and using English music um, is kind of an open door here for outreach, and so that's been a blessing. And we try to use that and also balance that with serving in local churches and leading worship as well.
We mentioned already 10 years in Romania. I kind of feel you have a seat at the table when it comes to having an opinion about
Mm.
the music scene in Romania, the Christian music scene, and also as a foreigner, but also as an insider now. A few strengths and a few things that we also need to still like work on or yeah and grow.
Strength wise, I feel like it's grown a lot in the last 10 years that we've been here. Um, and that's really beautiful to see. I'm so encouraged to see more original music coming out of Romania. Yeah, originality and uh, lyrics that are centered towards the people of Romania. Like that's really cool to see. That's not being just translated from the States. So that's been really awesome to see growth in that. There's a lot of good stuff coming out of Romania now. Um, Yeah, and as far as uh, weakness, I'm not sure if this is specific to Romania or just everybody. I think this is a weakness throughout everywhere, I think, when it comes to believers. Um, I think a weakness would be um, equating service for God with relationship with God. Um, even in regards to worship, we see a lot of people that are, if they're doing worship, or if they're in the worship band or on the worship team, then that means they have, for them, that equals, I have a great relationship with the Lord and things are great. And or if I'm doing this and that for God, ministering in this or that way, then my relationship for God with God is awesome. And the danger with that is that if you're not doing it, then where is your relationship with God? COVID could happen all over again, and you're not going to be able to be on stage and serving and in that way. You're not going to be able to be plugged in and doing for God necessarily. Where does your relationship with God stand when all that is gone? So yeah, I would say maybe just not enough focus on spending personal time in God's presence, um, apart from works. And I don't think that's specific to Romania. That's specific to everybody, including myself. So,
If you had one message to pass on to creatives out there, what would that be?
um, so I guess I'm preaching to the choir in a sense. I say this, but I guess I would say stop comparing yourself to others.
So good.
Um, and though this may sound cliche, God doesn't make copies, He only makes originals. So if your work, whether it's music or writing or art or whatever it may be, doesn't look like somebody else's work, you might be tempted to ask, am I doing it right? And I know that's something that I am tempted to ask myself, like, I don't think I'm doing this right. Like, I'm not a trained musician by any means. I'm not a trained artist. I also paint. Like, I don't have any formal training in anything. So I'm constantly asking myself, like, I'm not even doing this right. Like, because I'm comparing myself to somebody who has the credentials to do it in the right way. And I'm constantly like second guessing myself, like, oh my gosh, I'm not even doing this right. Like, if so and so sees this or hears this, they're gonna be like, oh, clearly she didn't have, she doesn't have a college degree in this area, and so yeah, I would just say, yeah, stop comparing yourself. And God always reminds me that there's no right way to be an artist. And that's the beauty of art, actually. You can certainly grow in your skill and you can get better at it. Um, but yeah, that doesn't mean that you have to compare yourself to others or perceive that they're doing it right and you're doing it wrong. So, yeah. On a side note, I think I mentioned to you, I feel like I haven't been on Instagram I took Instagram off my phone for the last 3 months, maybe. Um, and it might be an indefinite thing. But that was part of the reason that I took it off. I don't see myself as somebody who compares themselves, but I realize that, and I don't do it consciously. Like, I'm never like, oh my gosh, this person's so
Yeah.
much better, whatever. But I think that our subconscious is so influenceable. That's the word. Um, and they don't call them influencers for no reason. There's a reason they call them influencers, because they do influence you. And
True.
everything you see influences you. And I felt like I was subconsciously being influenced by, and this is obviously not only through social media, it's through everything that, but social media is always there, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I just felt like I was being influenced to think this is what beautiful looks like. This is what talented looks like. This is what um, a talented musician looks like. This is what a beautiful person looks like. This is what a good artist looks like. This is what I also like interior designing. Like, this is what your house has to look like in order to be um, perceived as beautiful or amazing or whatever. Everything has to be beige and cream, and that's it. You know, like a lot of that kind of stuff where it's just like I don't know, God just impressed it on my heart that, maybe take a break. And it was cool because I took a break and I realized that it had kind of been boxing me in a little bit. And it's not that I was, constantly on there scrolling or whatever, but little things get in your mind and subconsciously influence you.